Don Boden from SampleLibraryReview.com. Today we're going to be checking out Kynema Percussion by Levitate Sound. Levitate with Sound, new developer from the team over at Real Slow Motion, which you may know from tons of trailer work, is promising a powerful percussion contact library with epic instruments captured through performance-based sampling. Library downloads is 18 gigabytes. That's losslessly compressed from 36 gigabytes of content, recorded at 96K 24-bit. There's 15 different sampled percussion instruments with Grand Casa sticks, hard and soft mallet hits, and low Steinway grand staccato piano. There's 10 dynamic layers and 16 round robins per instrument. There's also crescendo rolls, as well as 20 pulse presets. There's 4 mic techniques and mixes, and it does run in the free contact player. 7.10.6 or higher, is NKS compatible. Normally sells for $249. Time putting the video together here, it's on a special bundle price. If you pick it and a Sphere 1 up, you'll save $100. Normally sells for $398. You can get it for $298 till May 23rd, 2025. And before we dive into the instrument here, I just want to make sure you know that I'm doing a review of both Levitate with Sound Spheres 1 as a separate video and the Kynema Percussion as a separate video as well. I'll cross-link in the description below so you can jump back and forth between those. I'll be using the same demo to showcase the libraries, and I'll include chapters if you want to skip over that if you already heard it in one of the other demos. I wasn't sure what we were going to be getting into here until I spent a little time, watched the walkthrough videos, and started playing with the instrument myself. I'll share some of my first thoughts here after creating a demo with the library. This is not a complete trailer percussion kit. It is a really wonderfully recorded acoustic trailer drum kit. So if you're expecting hits, whooshes, impacts, those kind of things, this is not going to contain those. It's going to be a collection of much more organic, thunderous instruments. As I mentioned, it is a contact player instrument. You can see here we've got 3 main folders. The multi-instruments with hits, crescendo rolls, bonus Steinway D staccato, and then the single instruments. You can see we got tons of instruments sampled with single instruments there. And then so there's crescendo rolls as separate instruments as well. If we dive into the third one, this is the sound design pulses. And you can see we've got each of those pulses as separate NKIs. Let's just start at the top, shall we, with the hits instrument. And right off the bat, I'll tell you what I like about this one is right across the keyboard, you've got all your instruments, left and right hand, loaded up and ready to use. And you can hear all the instruments we named off across the board there. It loads up with a reverb here. You got an on-off switch and the controls. That amount of verb sounds pretty decent to me. And you can see we've got our full mix loaded in. So I'm going to mute my mic here and we're just going to listen to a little bit of playback with the different microphones and dialing in a little bit of difference for the verb. All right, first thoughts here. These close mics sound fantastic. Second immediate thought, the little matrix here, this thing is so smooth. A lot of times when a developer puts this into a library, it's just a little laggy, it's a little clunky, the sound doesn't quite smoothly transition. Over at our effects, you can see we've got additional controls that are hidden right with this button, so you can control your delay. If you need that much delay, you can also control some things on your verb with time dampening and modulation. You get real big there. Now, one of the reasons I think this instrument sounds so good is because they've got a pre-roll. The transients are there on all of these sample playback. So you've got this tight button here, which is the way I tend to perform with it on the keyboard, so that when I'm playing and it's lining up on the keyboard, the MIDI is being recorded right where I want it to be. Then I can turn it off and put a 41 millisecond delay on my track so it'll line up with my track and give me those transients. And you could just hear a tiny bit on there, but when you look at it in the files, performances, you'll see those 41 milliseconds give you a little bit more realism. Now, I also appreciate the way they've added a double performance on this. You've got a humanize factor, which does a little bit with the performance as far as humanizing delay. And then there's also a stereoize, so it gives you a little bit more depth across the spectrum with the two players. Let's go ahead and move ahead now that we got the basics of the instrument in. The crescendo rolls here are set up across the keyboard, you got everything, which is one of the things I love about the library. And you can hear the shorter ones are towards the bottom, longer ones are towards the top of your key selection. Now, if I was going to get super picky about the library, I would have liked to have had some suspended rolls so that I could use my mod wheel and fade into a crescendo for much longer performances. That's just a little something I'd love to see if they do ever update this version of the library. Moving on, you see they've got a bonus Steinway D. Which truly is a bonus. It's just staccato low notes, just in that low key range. You've got your reverb and your mic positions as well. And then moving on, you can see we've got single instruments for all of their hits. Which means if you just need a much lower footprint here, I mean, this one's only 22 megabytes, you can load up the individual samples or put them on individual separate tracks. For my workflow, I was using the hits instrument because it had all the instruments across the keyboard. And as you can see there, it's only 286 megabytes for those to load in. So going back to the single instruments here, we'll just listen to a few more examples. Other thing I do want to note here that I like about the way this is set up is all of these individual instruments correspond to that master hints instrument. So you could use just that master hints instrument to program everything out easily and quickly, basically divide up your MIDI and then turn all those individual performances into separate tracks for your mixing. You can see we've also got the crescendo rolls as separate performances. And my compliments to the developer once again, because these are all collected in the same way they're presented in the master multi-instrument. So you could, again, put all your performances just on that one track to start with, divide up your MIDI, and create all new tracks for your final mixing sessions. I got another demo here that I just mocked up just using the percussion hits and percussion crescendo rolls and a little bit of that bonus piano just for fun, just so you could hear most of the instruments in play here. Now, this final folder here is the pulses. And for this, the developer's given us 20 different contact NKIs. You could see already it's got some motion. I'm going to mute my mic so we can listen to a bunch of these. Before we dive into those more, though, I do want to note you can hear lower velocity will give us quarter notes. Medium velocity will give us eighth notes, or 16th notes for higher velocity. Is that what it is? There we go. You can see this is all tied to the movement within the little dial from the one sound to the other. Once we go over to the design aspect of the instrument, you can see where our sample sets are. Okay, I'm going to mute my mic for real. We'll listen to a ton of these. Note here, these are all tempos synced. I'm going to move my tempo and my DAW. Move along, let's do a few more. Now you probably noticed this XY pad's moving around, and it's moving these two macros here. These macros are actually assigned down here. When you have the volume, you can see it's not assigned to anything. Pan's not. The LFO right here is set to the Y. And if we look over on this one, click on these, you can set them to the X. You can also set the pan to the Y and set the pan on the other one to the X. And that way we're getting all kinds of things happening. Now you can also have them triggered here by LFO. You can change your frequency. They move a lot more, obviously. And here we got minimum and maximum, so. You can control how much they move around in there. So one way we could perform and get this thing to do what we want it to do is actually MIDI CC something, like a couple sliders I've got on my keyboard. And then this way, when I perform, I've got performance data in here as well. So I can perform something. And I should be able to just play that back. And then it'll move exactly where I performed with my faders assigned to the XY. Critique here is that there wouldn't be a standard XY because that means every time I change one of my NKIs, I do need to click and assign a new MIDI CC to each of those. Final thoughts here on Kynema Percussion. Lovely set of drums, very well thought out, very organic. This was not what I expected before I saw the developers walkthroughs. I was expecting something more trailerized. I was really surprised at how beautifully organic, resonant, and powerful the percussion is. The rolls and crescendos are really nice. I mentioned some of my critique earlier about those, and I think the position is really well done. Very simple, very streamlined, just a way to jump in and start working right away to get some amazing organic percussion parts for your tracks. The pulses are a really neat additive. I think they tended to feel a little repetitive over time just because of the nature of what it was, just quarters, eighths, and sixteenths, depending on velocity. But I like the overall feel and the controls for them. Did critique the XY fader. I wish the X and Y would have had dedicated CCs so that I always knew where I could control those, so I didn't have to reprogram them each time I load up a new NKI. Now, I've shared a ton of my thoughts along the way, but I'd love to hear yours. What do you think about Kynema Percussion? You're going to be picking this up, replacing some of your original percussion? Don't forget to head over and watch the Levitate with Sound Sphere 1 video review that I'm releasing concurrently with this one.